Ever had a day where everything looked normal from the outside, but inside it felt like nothing mattered? You woke up, got dressed, maybe even smiled. But it wasn't you who was really there. It was like watching your life on mute. No sound, no emotion, just going through the motions. That's what untreated depression often looks like. Not always dramatic, not always crying. Sometimes it just quietly takes over your everyday life and makes it smaller. I'm fine. The most dangerous lie we learn to say. For many people, depression doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in little ways that are easy to miss or ignore. You stop replying to texts, not because you're rude, just tired of pretending. You cancel plans, not because you don't care, just can't bring yourself to face the world. You sit on the couch scrolling for hours, not because it brings joy, but because anything else feels too heavy. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, more than 21 million adults in the US experienced a major depressive episode in the past year. And yet, millions never seek treatment. Why? Because depression doesn't always look like the commercials. It doesn't always come with tears or breakdowns. Sometimes it just looks like surviving. Barely. The functional but numb trap. There's a silent version of depression that no one talks about enough. High-functioning depression. You still show up to work. You still laugh at jokes. You still post pictures that say, "I'm okay," but inside, there's a numbness that doesn't go away. Food tastes bland. Music doesn't move you. Conversations feel hollow. The things that used to excite you now feel like chores. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're ungrateful. Your brain is fighting a constant battle that others can't see. One study published in JAMA Psychiatry found that people with untreated depression experience measurable changes in brain activity, especially in areas related to pleasure, decision-making, and emotional regulation. In simple terms, your brain gets stuck in survival mode. At least I'm not crying. How minimization keeps you stuck. We often compare our pain to others. If I can work, I must be fine. At least I'm not in bed all day. There are people who have it worse. These thoughts might seem reasonable, but they're traps. They invalidate your experience. They keep you silent, and they delay the help you deserve. You don't need to hit rock bottom to ask for support. The truth is, depression doesn't wait for a crisis to start hurting you. The silent side effects. What you don't notice right away. Left untreated, depression slowly eats away at your joy, your energy, your self-worth. And because it moves slowly, it often goes unnoticed, even by you. You begin to lower your standards for happiness. You stop dreaming, stop hoping, stop caring. Not because you chose to, but because your brain, your heart, your soul are exhausted. This is the part that hurts the most. Many people don't even realize they're living half a life until they finally feel what it's like to live fully again. You're not broken, you're carrying something heavy. If this sounds like you or someone you love, please know, you are not alone, you are not weak. And most importantly, this version of life is not your final chapter. What you're feeling isn't your personality, it's your pain speaking. And pain, when acknowledged, can begin to heal. Depression doesn't always take things from you in one dramatic moment. Sometimes, it takes them slowly. So slowly you barely notice. A laugh that doesn't come as easily. A friendship that quietly fades. A dream you once held close, now shelved indefinitely. When left untreated, depression doesn't just affect your mood. It changes the way you relate to the world, to others, and to yourself. The erosion of connection. Relationships don't always end with a fight. Sometimes they just dissolve under the weight of silence. When you're living with untreated depression, emotional availability becomes scarce. You might pull away not because you want to, but because your mind is too crowded to be present. You stop answering calls. You cancel plans. You say, "I'm just tired," when the truth is deeper, heavier. Over time, people stop reaching out. And suddenly, you feel abandoned. when in truth, you've been isolating without even realizing it. The Harvard study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies on human happiness, found that the quality of our relationships is one of the most powerful predictors of long-term well-being. Untreated depression creates walls where there used to be bridges, opportunities lost in slow motion. Depression affects motivation, focus, and self-confidence. That means you don't apply for the job. You back out of the project. You convince yourself there's no point before even trying. These aren't just missed tasks. They're missed chapters in your story. Psychologist Martin Seligman coined the term learned helplessness, a state where people stop trying because they've come to believe their efforts won't make a difference. When depression goes untreated, this helplessness becomes a lens. You begin to see the world as unchangeable and yourself as incapable, even when neither is true. The quiet collapse of self-worth. One of the most painful hidden costs of untreated depression is how it distorts your self-image. You begin to define yourself not by your strengths, but by your struggles. I'm lazy. I'm broken. I'm too much. I'm not enough. None of these are facts. They are symptoms. But when they go unchallenged, they become internalized. And once internalized, they start to shape your choices, your boundaries, your sense of what you deserve. You stop asking for help. You stop expecting joy. You stop believing you're worthy of love that's kind and consistent. The memory fog. Did you know depression can actually change how your brain stores and recalls memories? A study in cognitive therapy and research found that people with depression are more likely to recall negative memories and less likely to access positive ones, a phenomenon known as overgeneral memory. This affects how you see your past. You remember the failures more than the wins. You feel like you've always been this way, even if that's not true. It also affects how you see your future. If the past feels like a series of disappointments, how can you hope for more? This isn't about pessimism. It's neurological. But here's the good news. Memory patterns can shift. With treatment, support, and time, the brain can relearn what it means to hope, to expect good things, to dream again. What gets lost, and what can still be found. You may have lost moments. You may have lost connections. You may have lost parts of yourself along the way, but you haven't lost everything. The beauty of the human spirit is that it remembers how to rebuild, even after years of silence. What you missed can't be undone. But what comes next? That's still yours to shape. Healing doesn't bring back the past, but it makes the future feel possible again. You tell yourself it's just stress, or maybe you're just tired. But deep down you know, something isn't right. Your back aches for no reason. You can't sleep even when you're exhausted. Your stomach knots at the slightest tension. And no matter how much you rest, the fatigue never fully lifts. This isn't all in your head. It's in your nervous system, your immune system, your gut, your skin. When you leave depression untreated, the body keeps the score. I feel it in my body. And you're right. We often talk about mental health like it's separate from physical health, but that's a myth. Depression impacts the entire body in real, measurable ways. According to the Mayo Clinic and multiple scientific studies, people with chronic untreated depression are at higher risk for heart disease, diabetes, chronic pain, gastrointestinal issues, weakened immune response. Your body isn't betraying you. It's reacting to prolonged distress without relief. The nervous system in survival mode. Imagine your brain as a command center. When it perceives emotional pain, it sends signals through your nervous system. In depression, this system often gets stuck in a fight, flight, or freeze loop, even when there's no clear threat. That means increased muscle tension, which becomes neck pain, back pain, headaches. Shallow breathing or tight chest, racing heart, even while resting, digestive issues, because your body deprioritizes digestion under stress. Your body's alarm is ringing, constantly, quietly, and without treatment, it doesn't get a chance to reset. Sleep that doesn't restore. One of the most common and overlooked symptoms of untreated depression is disrupted sleep. You may struggle to fall asleep, wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, sleep for 10+ hours and still feel exhausted. This isn't laziness. It's your brain's way of coping with overload. During depression, REM sleep, critical for emotional processing, is often impaired. That's why you can sleep for hours and still feel emotionally frayed. Sleep should be recovery time. But with depression, even dreams can feel heavy. The hidden war inside your gut. Did you know your gut produces about 90% of your serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter? That's why untreated depression can wreak havoc on your digestion. Symptoms may include loss of appetite or overeating, nausea, bloating, or cramps with no medical cause, constipation, or diarrhea. Your gut and brain are in constant communication through what's called the gut-brain axis. When one suffers, the other reacts. So no, your stomach issues aren't just in your head. They are in your whole system when you feel nothing and everything at once. This is the paradox of somatic depression. You feel physically heavy, achy, tense, and yet, emotionally, numb. It's like carrying an invisible weight while your inner world goes silent. Many people describe it as being disconnected from my body, or living behind a glass wall. You're here, but not fully present. Your body aches for comfort, but your heart feels unreachable. Your body doesn't need to be your enemy. It's your messenger. If your body is screaming, it's because something inside has gone unheard for too long. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Pain is how the body speaks when we've been silent too long. The good news? When emotional pain begins to heal, the body often responds quickly, with better sleep, calmer digestion, and deeper rest. You don't have to live in fight or flight forever. There is another rhythm waiting for you. There's a voice inside that says, "Don't bother. You'll fail anyway. You're too much. You're not enough." It's not your voice. It's the voice of untreated depression using your own mind against you. And the worst part? It sounds so familiar. You start to believe it's just who you are. When depression becomes the narrator of your life, untreated depression rewires the way we think. It doesn't just make you feel sad, it changes the stories you tell yourself. You begin to expect rejection, so you pull away first. You expect to mess up, so you don't even start. You expect people to leave, so you stop opening up. This isn't laziness. This isn't fear of failure. This is learned self-protection, but it turns into self-sabotage. It's like building walls to keep the pain out, and realizing you've locked yourself in. The shame spiral. How self-blame feeds the cycle. You miss a deadline. You cancel on a friend. You sleep through your alarm again. And instead of compassion, your mind offers punishment. You're useless. Why do you always ruin everything? No one else struggles like this. But here's the truth. The depression came first. The exhaustion came first. The struggle came first. What looks like failure is often a symptom, but shame turns symptoms into identity. And once you believe you are the problem, asking for help starts to feel impossible. The fear of hope. This might sound strange, but one of the cruelest effects of untreated depression is the fear of getting better. Why? Because hope is vulnerable. Because if you try and fail, the pain feels even worse. Because your brain has been bracing for disappointment for so long, it doesn't know how to relax. You start to think, if I don't hope, I won't be hurt. If I expect the worst, I won't be surprised. But that thinking doesn't protect you. It just keeps you stuck in a place where nothing good can grow. I don't deserve help. The lie that keeps you isolated. This is the quiet poison of depression. It convinces you that your suffering isn't valid. You think, other people have it worse. I should be able to handle this. I'm being dramatic. And so you minimize. You stay silent. You struggle alone. But here's what you need to hear. You don't have to earn help. You don't have to prove your pain is bad enough. You don't need permission to feel how you feel. If it hurts, it matters. If you're drowning, you deserve a life raft. How the brain tricks you, and how to fight back the depressed brain is excellent at storytelling, but terrible at accuracy. It highlights your flaws. It erases your strengths. It creates worst-case scenarios and presents them as facts. But thoughts are not truths. They are echoes of your emotional state. Therapy, medication, mindfulness, even just talking to someone. These aren't signs of weakness. They are interruptions to the cycle. Small changes, repeated consistently, begin to rewire the mind. You can teach your brain a new narrative, one that includes possibility, compassion, and power. You are not the voice that tells you to give up. You are the one hearing that voice, which means you're not powerless. You can learn to question it. You can choose different responses. You can reach for help, even if the voice says it's not worth it. Because every time you reach out, speak up, or simply stay, you're breaking the cycle. There comes a moment, quiet, often unnoticed, when tomorrow starts to feel less like a promise and more like a burden. You can't point to a single cause. You just know something inside feels too loud, too heavy, too endless. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes, it's just a thought that lingers longer than it should. What if I didn't have to do this anymore? If you've ever had that thought, even just once, please keep reading. Suicidal thoughts don't always look like crisis. Many people believe that suicidal ideation means someone is visibly falling apart. But in reality, it can look like joking about, disappearing, expressing emotional numbness, giving away personal belongings, saying, "I just don't want to be here anymore," in a quiet voice, smiling on the outside while fading inside. According to the CDC, in the US alone, over 12 million adults seriously thought about suicide in the past year. That's not a small number. That's not a rare experience. And yet, we barely talk about it. Why? Because people are afraid. Afraid to be judged. Afraid to be misunderstood. Afraid to be seen as broken. The silence is what makes it dangerous. Depression grows in the dark. The longer you carry your pain without words, the heavier it becomes. And when no one knows what you're carrying, no one knows how to help. You might start thinking, "I'd be less of a burden if I wasn't here. No one would really notice if I disappeared. I've tried everything and nothing helps." These thoughts are not truths. They are symptoms. They are the voice of an illness, trying to convince you to give up before the next chapter begins. What makes suicide feel like the only option? Often, it's not that people want to die. It's that they want the pain to stop, and they can't see any other way out. It's about hopelessness, exhaustion, emotional isolation, the sense that nothing will change, no matter what you do. But pain isn't permanent, even if your mind tells you otherwise. What feels unbearable today might look completely different a year from now, with the right support, with the right treatment, with one person who listens. You are not alone, and you are not beyond help. This chapter is the hardest to talk about, but also the most important. If you've had thoughts of ending your life, or if someone you love is struggling, please know, there is help. There are people who care. There are treatments that work. Therapies like CBT, EMDR, medication, support groups, these aren't abstract ideas. They are real, evidence-based lifelines. And sometimes the first step is just one sentence. "I'm not okay." That sentence can be the beginning of healing, of being seen, of being held. If no one's ever told you this, let me be the first. Your existence matters. Your pain is real, but it is not all you are. You are not a burden. You are a human being in need of gentleness, time, and care. And there is still a version of your life waiting. One that includes peace, connection, and mornings that don't feel so heavy. Hold on. Even if just for today. Maybe you saw yourself in some of these stories. Maybe you felt a lump in your throat or a quiet yes rise in your chest. If you did, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not weak for struggling. You are not broken because it hurts. And you are not alone, even if it's felt that way for a long time. Depression that goes untreated doesn't just affect your mood. It shapes your relationships, your health, your memories, your future. But here's the part no one tells you. It's never too late to start healing. Whether you've been surviving in silence for months or years, whether you've told someone or never said a word, there is help, there is hope, and you deserve both. Let's recap what we uncovered. Depression doesn't always look like sadness. It often hides in routines, numbing you quietly. It steals from you without you noticing. Joy, connection, opportunity, self-worth. It affects your body because emotional pain has physical consequences. It traps you in self-sabotage, making you believe you don't deserve help. And sometimes it turns tomorrow into a weight. But even the darkest thoughts are symptoms, not prophecies. If any part of this resonated, I invite you to take just one small step today. Talk to someone. Write it down. Look into therapy. Or just leave a comment saying, "I'm still here." That's enough. That's more than enough. Your voice matters. Your healing matters. Your life matters. And if this video spoke to you, you're not the only one. Let's start a conversation in the comments. Share your story, your city, your truth. Where are you watching from? What did this video make you feel? Drop a comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more content on mental health and healing. We go deep here, we go gentle, and we go together